The shadow government unveiling 2025's top lobbyists. Lobbyists shape laws, influence policies, and impact your daily life. But do you know who's pulling the strings in 2025? These aren't your flashy front-page politicians. Oh no. These are the people who whisper in the ears of those politicians, the ones who wine and dine them while slipping in a few carefully worded suggestions about what the American people need. And what the American people really need, apparently, is a whole lot of deregulation and tax breaks for corporations. Over the next few minutes, we're going to dive deep into the murky world of lobbying, shining a light on the individuals who wield an alarming amount of influence over the very laws that govern us. Buckle up, because things are about to get shady, like bought a politician a yacht with your tax dollars. Shady, like share and comment with a 1 if you find this video informative, or a 2 if you don't. Let's dive in. Delivering profits, not packages, the FedEx story. Gina Adams and Lance Mangum represent FedEx. FedEx delivers millions of packages daily. They lobby for logistics efficiency. Critics say they prioritize profits over small businesses. The FedEx story shows how lobbying works in America. The price of health, Danaher Corporation's grip on healthcare. Next up, we have Maile Adams from Danaher Corporation, a company that sounds like it could be either a benevolent organization dedicated to ending world hunger or a supervillain's secret lair. In reality, it's a multinational conglomerate specializing in, well, a lot of things. Maile has been instrumental in shaping healthcare and environmental policies, most notably playing a key role in the Healthcare Innovation Act of 2025. Some argue that Maile's influence has skewed healthcare policy in favor of large healthcare providers and pharmaceutical companies, often at the expense of patients and smaller healthcare practices. The truth is, the healthcare industry is a tangled web of lobbyists, politicians, and corporations, all vying for a piece of the pie. Big gulp, bigger problems. 7-Eleven's labor law loophole. Molly Ahern Allen represents 7-Eleven, pushing for favorable retail and labor laws. Critics argue her stance on minimum wage laws favors franchise owners over workers. 7-Eleven claims they value their employees and provide a fair work environment. Remember that Slurpee might be made by workers struggling to make ends meet. Chapter 4, Paramount's Hollywood ending. Rewriting the script on media regulation. Hold on to your popcorn, folks, because this next one's a real blockbuster. Enter Kira Alvarez, Ed Hill, and Keith Murphy, Paramount's very own A-list lobbying squad. They were the masterminds behind the Media Fairness Act of 2025, an act that sounds about as appealing as a Michael Bay film festival, but is actually about as subtle as a sledgehammer to the face when it comes to favoring big media conglomerates. Critics argue that it gives companies like Paramount unprecedented control over what we see and hear, essentially turning our media landscape into one giant infomercial for whatever agenda they're pushing that week. We reached out to Paramount for a comment, and they assured us that the Media Fairness Act is all about promoting responsible storytelling and protecting intellectual property. The truth is, the entertainment industry is just as much about politics and influence as it is about entertainment. Title: The Southern Company's Energy Gamble, Fossil Fuels and the Future. Hold on to your hard hats, folks, because we're about to delve into the world of energy politics, and it's about as messy as an oil spill. Enter Brian Anderson and Gene Wolak, the Southern Company's dynamic duo of energy persuasion. They were instrumental in the passage of the Clean Energy Transition Act, an act that sounds about as appealing as a solar-powered tanning bed, but is actually about as effective as a screen door on a submarine when it comes to addressing climate change. Environmentalists argue that the Clean Energy Transition Act is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to prolong our reliance on fossil fuels while throwing a few token investments at renewable energy sources. The truth is, the energy industry is one of the most powerful lobbying forces in Washington, and they've been remarkably successful at delaying meaningful action on climate change. Chapter 6. ConocoPhillips. Pumping profits, not just oil. Buckle up, folks, because we're about to dive headfirst into the world of big oil. And it's about as slippery as an oil-soaked pelican trying to escape an oil spill. Enter Kevin Avery, ConocoPhillips' very own master of persuasion. He was a key player in the Energy Independence Act, a piece of legislation that sounds about as American as apple pie and bald eagles, but is actually about as subtle as a monster truck rally when it comes to favoring the fossil fuel industry. Critics argue that the Energy Independence Act is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to give the fossil fuel industry carte blanche to drill, frack and pollute their way to record profits. The truth is, the oil and gas industry spends billions of dollars every year lobbying politicians and influencing public opinion, all in an effort to delay the inevitable transition to clean energy. Chapter 7, Chegg's Education Equation Solving for Profit, Not Just Knowledge. Get out your textbooks and sharpen your pencils, folks, because we're about to tackle the complex world of education policy, where the stakes are high and the profits are even higher. Enter Jesse Barber, Chegg's very own education whisperer. He was instrumental in the passage of the Digital Learning Enhancement Act, a piece of legislation that sounds about as exciting as a PowerPoint presentation on grammar, but is actually about as lucrative as a winning lottery ticket for companies like Chegg. Critics argue that the Digital Learning Enhancement Act is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to funnel taxpayer dollars into the coffers of for-profit education companies. The truth is, the education technology industry is a multi-billion-dollar behemoth that's increasingly influencing education policy, often at the expense of students and teachers. Fasten your privacy settings, folks, because we're about to venture into the world of big data and healthcare, where the lines between innovation and exploitation are blurrier than a doctor's handwriting. Enter Andrew Barnhill, IQVIA's very own data whisperer. He was instrumental in the passage of the Health Data Privacy Act, a piece of legislation that sounds about as reassuring as a consent form written in a language you don't understand. Privacy advocates argue that it weakens existing privacy protections and gives companies like IQVIA unprecedented access to our most sensitive medical information, all in the name of innovation and research. We reached out to IQVIA for a comment, and they assured us that they take data privacy and security very seriously and are committed to using data responsibly to improve patient outcomes. The truth is, the healthcare data industry is a multi-billion-dollar market, and companies like IQVIA are eager to get their hands on as much data as possible, regardless of the potential consequences. Grab your tool belts and put on your safety goggles, folks, because we're about to deconstruct the world of housing and retail policy, where the stakes are higher than a contractor's ladder after a few beers. Enter Jana Baresi, Lowe's very own construction Serena. She played a key role in the Home Improvement Incentive Act, a piece of legislation that sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry, but is actually about as lucrative as a Black Friday sale for companies like Lowe's. Critics argue that the Home Improvement Incentive Act is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to line the pockets of big box retailers and real estate developers. We reached out to Lowe's for a comment, and they assured us that they are committed to supporting homeowners and helping communities thrive. The truth is, the home improvement and real estate industries are powerful lobbying forces that have a significant impact on housing policy, often at the expense of affordable housing, sustainable development, and small businesses. Lock and load, folks, because we're about to enter the high-stakes world of defense contracting, where the profits are measured in billions and the consequences are measured in human lives. Enter Gabrielle Batkin, Northrop Grumman's very own weapon of mass persuasion. She was instrumental in shaping the National Defense Authorization Act, a piece of legislation that's as long as a CVS receipt and about as transparent as a black hole when it comes to how our tax dollars are being spent. So, there you have it, folks, a glimpse into the shadowy world of lobbying, where corporations and special interests wield an alarming amount of influence over the policies that shape our lives.